And welcome back, everybody, to episode 186 Two Goalies, One Mic, brought to you by Fatty Beer Company, Western New York's premier market and tap room with over 300 beers to choose from at all 6 Western New York locations. If you need a beer, make sure you make it a Fatty Beer. Couldn't suggest more. The FBI Mango Wheat, one of my favorites. Give it a rip and let them know Two Goalies, One Mic sent you. Joined by Ty B over there at the Other Half Brewing. I know they have some fatty beers on tap, don't they?
Oh, we always got some beer there. I know we just sent a new collab to most of the locations this week, so check that out. Little something special with Weldworks, Side Project, an Angry Chair, and the Veil. So pretty good beer.
Love to hear it. Well, thanks for popping in with us, Ty. I call this one Land of the Lost because, again, it's another season come and gone and lost 14 years in a row. We got through locker room clean out. We got through the Kevyn Adams and Lindy Ruff presser, and kind of a little bit of the same old stuff we've heard regurgitated and presser past. We got a new hire today, Jake Vernon, the new CCO. What is it? Chief Commercial Officer or whatever. 14 or 12 years with the Timberwolves. Did a pretty good job there, and I guess they're hoping on the business side of things to bring that here. From what I read, I think he's going to be leading the helping obviously improve season ticket sales, but I imagine this will also go hand in hand with possibly with improvements to the arena that are desperately needed. Your guys, first off, we'll go right to the Kevyn Adams presser. Your guys' thoughts, starting with you, Ty, on what we heard from Kevyn Adams and Lindy Ruff.
I don't think anything was said that we kind of didn't expect to hear. It just felt like, another day at the office for them. They're used to losing. They're used to these end of year press conferences where, they talk about the team. Oh, there were some bright spots. They figured some things out, but it was too late, blah, blah, blah. And we're right back in the same position. It's Groundhog Day all over again. Nothing they say at the end of the season can change the result of what happened. So I don't take very much out of that at all. But I need to see out of them is them being actually introspective. And we're hearing some rumblings about some potential new titles and some movement around in the front office and potentially with the assistant coaches. So that's something where, you're taking actual action there. You're making a plan, you're seeing, what went wrong, where you can improve with certain things. So I think that's going to be more indicative of the way they see things going forward than what they say, because especially we know hockey guys with press conferences, we got pucks in deep, we worked hard to play as a team, got to get those 2 points. And it's the same kind of thing we get from hockey management. So you can't take too much away. It's going to be the action now over the next few weeks and months.
Yeah, I'd say a lot of the same. You said we survived or got through the press conferences. Apparently so did Kevyn Adams. It seems that he still has a job. Considering Lou Lamoriello, the Islanders GM and president of hockey operations, just got canned today, which is, I guess, a much lower bar for success or even failure in this case. The Islanders, at least in the past few years, have had a lot of success. And Lou Lamoriello, you can't credit him for all of that, but they've had more success than the Sabres have. So 1 or 2 years of mediocrity from their franchise was enough to get rid of one of the more well-known and well-respected names in the game of hockey. Someone I think a lot of Sabres fans would be happy to have in a president of hockey operations role, mostly because there hasn't been that guy in a really long time, but a guy like that with experience and pedigree to be able to take a fresh look at the situation and strip it down and start over. But as Mike Harrington and many people have told us, it doesn't seem like that's going to happen. And at this point, especially getting through that press conference, it doesn't seem like Kevyn Adams is going to lose his job either. So he does get another crack at it, and it is going to be hard to convince any unrestricted free agents, whether that be Mitch Marner or whether that be guys similar to Jason Zucker's career, to come to Buffalo this offseason. The fact that they even got Jason Zucker to sign a 1-year, $5 million deal, which at the time seemed like an overpay, but also to re-sign for 2 years leading up to this offseason, I think can be considered a win. But that's not necessarily going to happen again, given the state of the franchise.
No.
So they're going to have to be creative. They're going to have to do the things that he's actually done well, and that is deals like the Savoy for Ryan McLeod, which was a risk given that you got rid of one of the top prospects in the organization, but it has to be for proven players. McLeod at that point wasn't necessarily even proven, but he's a guy that was supported by the analytics. He was supported by his numbers relative to where he was in his career. They're going to need to do stuff like that to make a tangible change for this organization moving forward. So that's a lot to ask for, but it's not necessarily impossible.
Yeah. I did a quick I'll hang up and listen after the press conference. I started it halfway through, and then when it finished, I went back and listened to it again, just to kind of like take it all in. And listen, last year, Kevyn Adams, this is at the end of the day, this is on me. This is on me to get this right. Like I don't know how many times we heard him say that the year before, and even after the season where they missed it by 1 point. Like listen, man, and even Mike Harrington even said it. Like, it's not that you make bad deals in the offseason. Like the Ryan McLeod ended up being a good deal. Jason Zucker ended up being a good deal considering the circumstances. And Jason Zucker, side note, during his end of season press conference, he even said that there isn't this aura of nobody wants to come to Buffalo or outside the league. At least he's never heard it, which, I mean, I don't know how much stock I take into that, because if you're an unrestricted free agent, knowing the situation that went on with Jack Eichel and his neck, just obviously a team that hasn't made playoffs in over a decade, like, how are you not looking at the situation here and be like, absolutely not? But I guess according to Jason Zucker, that isn't the case. Or maybe that's just him speaking, on behalf of the team he's going to be on for the next 2 seasons, just trying to fan that, trying to put out that fire of, no, there's no outlook of the Sabres that nobody wants to sign here. Then why don't players sign here? Why don't big name players want to sign here outside of we're not a big market? So, but anyway, having said that, just even Lindy, they tried to find optimism in this press conference. They talked about Yuri Kulik and how the importance of Jason Zucker, and we heard so much about the power play. And the one positive thing I think I took from that press conference was I do believe we're not going to see the assistant coaches come back outside of maybe Seth Appert. I think they're going to clean house and hire a whole new staff.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely overdue. I think there is something to be said about what Mike told us about the assistants. While it may not have been completely Lindy's choice to bring that staff on, it's not as bad as it's been blown up to be. Terry obviously didn't want to pay for anybody outside of the organization not named Don Granato, and that was the situation for this year that required that. But yeah, guys not named Marty Wilford and Matt Ellis to come in and have a fresh perspective, whether that's on defense, the power play, or anything else. I think that's necessary. I'm willing to give Seth Appert another shot, hopefully not in the power play, but he's at least had enough experience coaching the AHL before this that I do think he earned his shot on an NHL bench, and him and Ruff do seem to have a bit of a rapport. But just bringing in a couple new assistants isn't going to completely change the course of this franchise. It's got to be in conjunction with tangible moves, whether that's trades, signing your own restricted free agents, which there are 5 of them, or signing other restricted free agents to offer sheets and hoping they sign those as well if a team doesn't choose to sign them. It's a complicated formula, but I think if they do stay, I think Kevyn Adams has to know that he's at the end of his rope. If he's not, then this situation is just completely untenable, and he could do no wrong, and he'll be at that position regardless. So yeah, I mean, assistant coach is great, but at the end of the day, it's not going to make the biggest impact in the world.
No, I agree completely with that. Like, you'd like to have allowed him to bring in his own guys for the first season, and um, people that like know what Lindy wants, what he expects every day in, day out, in video sessions, on the ice for practice, on the ice in games, all that helps. Um, but it didn't ever seem like Lindy was too upset with his assistants, or their effort in terms of coaching and doing the things he asked of them. Like, when was the last time we've seen a full season out of Lindy Ruff behind a Sabres bench where like he didn't blow a gasket at any point? Like, I don't know if I saw him like yell like once behind the bench. I would have liked a little bit more of that, to light a little bit of fire under these guys' asses. A couple of those games where they either came out for 20 minutes and then looked like shit for the next 40. Like, get them back going. Like, you got to do what you got to do. Because at some point, like, just sitting guys down, pulling their ice time, like, they don't care. Like, they don't care enough, to do the little things, to stay on the ice. They're not going to care if you take them off, because then they just see that as their way out the door of Buffalo, and they see the success that everyone else has had away from here. So it makes that very tough. And then when you're out trying to, recruit more players for this team, and you're looking at offer sheeting a guy, yeah, you can offer anybody who's an RFA whatever you want, but they also have to agree to sign that offer sheet.
Yeah.
That is a huge key piece that a lot of people, I don't think, realize. Like, you still have to convince the player that he wants to be there. Like, more often than not, you're trying to come in and overpay, and that's kind of your big tool, and you're trying to pry a guy away from that because it's a number that the other team can't match because of their cap issues, or other upcoming contract extensions that they have to give out, and blah blah blah. But when you're looking at it from the Sabres perspective, that makes it very tough, and especially when your big trade deadline move was moving Dylan Cousins. Cousins has been pretty fine for Ottawa, and we got 3 games out of Josh Norris. And he's got a bigger cap hit than Dylan Cousins did. So, like, that is not, I mean, obviously, like, there's still time on that trade to, figure out how everything works out. But the early results are quite poor on that. And you don't let your GM do that unless you're giving him the full offseason here. Like, if you had any even slight inclination that you might fire him, you don't let him do that deal at the deadline. You wait for the new guy to come in and do it during the offseason. So that, to me, just shows that, Tim is fully, or Terry is fully behind what they're doing right now, and whether it works or not, like, he's made some good moves, but is he able to do enough to fully move the needle? I don't know, because I don't know if it's just acquiring more players rather than getting the most out of the players you currently have.
Yeah, and another thing too is, and Mike Harrington brought this up too, and I couldn't agree with it more. And he kind of tried to get Kevyn Adams to to talk about this during the presser, and he didn't ask directly, like, tell him directly, like, you need to evolve as a better GM in season, but he kind of tried to lead him in that direction, and Kevyn didn't really bite. But he needs to be a better GM in season. This is like the second season in a row where you were on really bad losing streaks and you did nothing, didn't waive nobody, didn't bring him from Rochester, didn't try and make an in-season trade to rectify things and to fix the situation, and you let it keep getting worse and worse and worse. And this year, it almost certainly caused you a playoff spot in a season where literally a mediocre team could get in.
Yep.
What was the points need? Was it 91? Was it 91 points would have gotten him in?
91 or 92, I think.
It was 91 from the Canadians.
Yeah, so 90, and again, it's the Canadians, man. Remember the bubble year? The Canadians are the team that got in over us, and it's so annoying. On offer sheets, look how, again, yes, you do have to get them to agree to sign it, but you don't have to go offer sheet like a big fish, right? Like, look what St. Louis did with Ottawa. They went out and they went Broberg and Holloway. Both players worked out crazy well for them. I think Holloway was just under a point per game player. Broberg was, I think, like 30 something points, but he was a solid defenseman for St. Louis all year long. Like, you don't have to go after a big fish. You just got to find a team that is up against it with the cap, and you might be willing to pay a little. You can afford to overpay, a guy like Dylan Holloway or a guy like Broberg, somebody who you might, and that might be the only way you get a decent player in here in free agency, because I don't know if it happens unless you overpay an insane amount. And we all know how I feel about Mitch Marner. I know we need a top 4 defenseman, and that should be at the top of their priority list after re-signing Tuck and Paterka. But I don't know, man. Like, who's the guy? Who's the guy?
I mean, I think you're looking for another guy kind of like McLeod, where they're playing those, like, third line minutes. You think they can be a top 6 forward. They still have that upside. They've shown those flashes. And you get them, you overpay slightly, but you pay what you're, like, kind of expecting to get, which is, I think, exactly what St. Louis did, where you get those guys and you actually give them the time and put them in a place to succeed. And it worked out for them. It got them back to the playoffs. Like, it was a quick turnaround and rebuild for them. They retooled quickly by, using restricted free agency and doing some things that not every team does all the time. And, moving some of their prospects around, making NHL trades, like getting guys who are ready to play right away, things like that. And you have the opportunity to do that. And I think that's probably the one big selling point you do have when you're going after a restricted free agent like that you have the ability to offer that top 6 position, because that's really what they need right now. They need one more guy to fill out that top 6, and you can kind of should be able to piece the rest together with the amount of talent you have.
Mm-hmm. One thing I wanted to ask you both too. It was asked during the press conference, and they weren't exactly. They actually say they were comfortable with it. They said they were open to improving there. If the opportunity comes, but are you guys comfortable with their top 2 centers being Jiri Kulich and Josh Norris right now? Because that's who it is.
Yeah, probably not. I think any type of addition to the top 6 would make that situation a little bit easier to swallow from a team and fan perspective. Neither guy is proven at this point in their career. I think there's a lot of promise with both. There's a lot of projection involved, but as Jason Zucker said, hope is a shitty strategy. Like, it's not going to get you to the point where any of us are comfortable, where anyone on the scouting staff would be comfortable with those 2 guys is the top 2 centers in your top 6. So no. And I think that's also very much related to whether Tage plays center or not. I think we were all very much under the assumption that he was going to be your top center for the next 10 years, but he played on the wing towards the back half of the season, and he produced as well as he did when he was playing center. He's proven that he can do both, but if he could play on the wing and doesn't have those defensive responsibilities and doesn't have to put as much effort into those responsibilities and can focus on goal scoring, which is what he does best, I think that would be ideal. So no, I personally wouldn't love that, but if you add another guy on the wing in the top 6 or do something else to supplement that maybe a little bit, maybe that could be something that works. But as of this current moment with where their roster stands, no, I don't feel super comfortable with that.
And even Lindy said it's easier to take a center and make him a winger than vice versa, make a winger a center. And to your point, you do have that flexibility if it's not working out with Jiri Kulich to make him your number 1 center. But I mean, Josh Norris, the list of injuries is pretty extensive so far early in his career, and he's making $8 million a year. Like, I agree with you, Hurls. They do need to add, whether it's somebody who drives play from the wing, like a Mitch Marner, Brock Besser. I don't know who that name is, but I just would feel a lot better if they brought somebody in that top 6, and we're not depending on like Zach Benson to be on your top line next year.
Yeah, no, this feels like the perfect spot where a couple years ago they went out and got Eric Stahl, where you kind of want that older elder statesman guy to take over one of those top 6 center spots, and you let Kulich fully develop into that, whether it takes 20 games, 40 games, takes a full season, whatever. He's got that guy to fully learn from, to do the little things while he has a little bit less responsibility, and then can grow into that. And then when you switch that off, you drop that guy down to the third line. Now you're running, an elite third line as well, you can keep things moving, kind of balance things out a little bit better that way with the amount of talent they have offensively. Like, we saw what their numbers were at 5v5. They were one of the best teams in the NHL, and they have been for the past few seasons. So if you can get guys in here who do the little things and pass those off to the younger guys, that's what you need to do right now. And we saw that with Jason Zucker, and that developed throughout the season. And I don't think it's a surprise we saw the growth in Benson that we did when you look at the things he's doing, and then you look at the things Zucker was doing and the things Tuck was doing. Like, they're showing Benson what to do out there, to be a pest, to do the little things to help your team out night in and night out. They have active sticks. They're breaking up passes. They're breaking up shot attempts. They do the little things that make things easy for their teammates. And you need a lot of guys like that on the team. And we saw that with, those Sabres teams of the 90s and early 2000s, where as much as, you had a Drury and Briere at one point and some of these bigger names, like, it was always about being, the sum is greater than, the parts, whatever. And when you have that aspect on a team, like, you can continue to grow together. Like, if you make a mistake, someone's going to, help you make up for it. They're not going to put you down about it. And I think at times in this season, you see, especially some of those younger guys still, even though they're, 3 years, 4 years into their career, some of them, they make those little mistakes and it gets in their head. They're not willing to make that extra little pass, take that extra little time, and then you see them starting to dump it and turn it over in the third period, rather than, hey, I could have held it an extra second. That guy might have got a little break through the zone. Like, I could have fed him. And they get that panic in their game, and you just need guys in here who are going to kind of steady that, who've been there, who've done that. And the guys they've brought in the past just haven't been great examples of that. Or it was just the losing got to them too quickly because guys weren't listening and weren't being receptive to that. But it seems like this locker room at this point is a little bit better with those things than it has been in years past. Like, I don't know. It's kind of crazy when you just look at the talent on paper, you look at their numbers this season. Like I said, especially at 5v5. And if you would have told me those numbers before the season, I'm like, they're shoo-in for the playoffs. And again, they shot themselves in the foot too many times to really count.
And not even that, just if you were to tell me I would have a 40 goal scorer, a 30 goal scorer, and what, 3 or 4 20 goal scorers, I mean, that's a playoff team. That's a playoff team. So,
but then they let in the second most amount of goals in the league.
Yeah.
So it's one or the other, and
their PK is
seasons.
Just as bad as the power play lately.
Yeah, and we honestly, even given how bad the power play was, I think the narrative for most of the season was that the penalty kill was at least like average, but towards the end of the year, it kind of went towards the other end of the spectrum. So, I mean, it's not the easiest formula in the world, but a lot of teams do seem to do it where you don't have to sacrifice one in order to be good at the other. And for the past 3 seasons, they've either been good at one but not the other, and the special teams hasn't supported either one of those. And I mean, Lindy said today, like, he's not necessarily going to put blame, or over the weekend, put blame on a goalie until they can fix their puck management. And I think we've said that as goalie supporters for the most part. I would say that that's a relatively good policy to start with, because your goalie's 100% going to be better if your puck management and your defensive awareness is better in front of your own net and in your own zone, defense and forwards included. So that's a great place to start. It's a good philosophy to have. You need the players that are going to execute that strategy in their own zone and take accountability and be responsible for playing good defensively. I think it's a mindset. It's a lot of communication, and systems need to be in place for these guys to realize that you can score as many goals as you want, but if you give up the second most amount of goals in the league, you could be one of the best teams on 5-on-5 in the history of the NHL, but you're not going to make the playoffs if the puck's in your net more often than it's not. So, I mean, UPL admittedly didn't have his best season, but I do think that his game, Devin Levi's, and whoever else they bring in to provide some competition, their standing with the organization is going to be much better off if the overall defensive play is improved.
I don't hate this comment here from James Thomas. I think slotting Kulich at third line center would be a great just for a year. Obviously, you want him to the top 6. Having him in the third line is great depth. Having Zucker as his wingman would be good for his development. Yeah, I mean, given that Tage has been able to pretty much play well with whoever you put him there, I mean, I don't think it'd be the end of the world if you separate the two. And you've already seen the rapport between him and between Kulich and Zucker. I think that would be pretty good for his development. But again, it just depends on if you can find that top 6 center to want to come here, whoever it might be. That I think it's more realistic than not that those are your two top number one, number 2 centers heading into the season, which does scare me quite a bit, especially if there's an injury to like Tage. Because then
absolutely.
How much does Alex Tuck make on his next contract? They've made him a priority. They pretty much made that clear. Come July 1st, that he will be a priority. I believe he made one of you guys either in the peanut gallery here. One of you guys can look. I think he made like $4.5 million a year.
I think it was 4.7.
4.7. Very, very underpaid. One of the best two-way forwards in the league, and set the single season record for shots blocked by a forward. Obviously, one of, if not the best penalty killer in the league, and he'd probably win the Selke if the Sabres were in the playoffs. How much does that guy make on his next contract?
Hard to say, like specifically. I would put it in the range of 7 to 8. I mean, you can't necessarily justify paying him more than Tage, but obviously that deal was given to Tage as a projection-based contract, and he's outperformed it by every single stretch of the imagination. You need to reward him for what he's done, but also project a little bit that he's going to continue to be able to do this. I would say somewhere within that range, $7 million over 7 or 8 years, I think would be good for both the team and the player. And honestly, like, you might have to do something similar with Peterka, given his relative ascension each season he's been in the NHL, rather than what happened with Dylan Cousins. Obviously, we all know that, but Peterka's proven in his 3 full seasons in the NHL that he's taken a step forward in each season. He's done different things well. So I think you got to consider his contract as well, because when you sign both of those guys, and you're going to have a lot of guys on this roster on long-term deals. But I do think that with both of them, they're relatively proven commodities in today's NHL, and in terms of what they do well, what they've done well for this team, and what they can moving forward. So I would say somewhere in that range.
Yeah, no, I don't think there's any way he's getting 10 million like that guy just said, but definitely $7-8 million range. He's proven it. Plus the way the salary cap continues to go up, $7 to $8 million in 2-3 years is going to be a very, very average wage for a top 6 player. So if Tuck can do that for the next 5 out of 7 of those seasons, give you those top 6 minutes, it's exactly what you want. Like you mentioned, he had one of the best penalty killing seasons we've seen of all time. I believe he led the team in penalty killing goals, shorthanded, blocked the most shots. Like, the dude just does it all and leaves it on the ice, and is the perfect example of what we want a Buffalo Sabres hockey player to be. And I'm going to be hopping out of here in just a second. So, like, for my last comment, I just want to say, like, that's the type of player we need. These are the players that Kevyn Adams needs to go for. These are guys who want to be here. These are guys who want to win here. They know what Buffalo's like when they are winning. And that is a huge, huge factor in all of this. These guys started to learn how to win at home. They heard, what that barn can get like when they're doing the little things, when they're succeeding. Like that, the first 2 periods in that last home game, we were absolutely throttling the Flyers. The fans were going crazy. And then, they kind of did their normal thing where in the 3rd period, they start to turtle and they get a little nervous and they leave some skid marks in their pants. But for once, they finally learned how to go out and get that empty net goal. And you saw they gave up another goal after that. So that was the key factor in that win there. They didn't give up on themselves. And one of the big things I saw from Lindy in that game was putting Oslin out there, putting Rosen out there on the penalty kill, letting them get those minutes, get those opportunities in a game that, no, does it matter in the grand scheme of things? No, but this matters in their development because they're out there competing with these guys who are actually caring and tried to win that last game. And if we can just get that effort for a full 82 game season, that's all we want. And like, I don't know how there's still 10,000 season ticket holders. That was the most surprising thing for me in the past week or so with all the press conferences and articles and everything. I was like, 10,000 still? I was like, who? Because everyone I know, almost everyone I know got rid of their seasons. They're like, oh, well, they're not putting up season ticket prices. Yeah. If you took their threat and you renewed early, they were going to keep your prices. If not, everything was going up for everybody. So, they're good with their PR at times, but what they're doing for the fans still isn't great. You're giving out Lindy Ruff bobbleheads to someone who buys 3 tickets for games when you give nothing to season ticket holders. 20 people at the end of the season out of those 10,000 get a jersey off one of these players' backs. Oh, you can go on the fan bony once per season, maybe. Like, you might get a sweet upgrade. And like, hopefully bringing in this new guy will help. I just think they're just going to be shoving a lot more memorabilia and nostalgia and whatever weird nights down our throats in the arena. So we'll see how that goes. But I'm cautiously optimistic going to this offseason. I think we've said it for the last 10 years or so. Like, I think they have the right pieces here and they're starting to come together. You're putting the puzzle together. It feels like there's only a couple pieces left. And when you look at how quickly teams like St. Louis have turned things around, like Montreal going from losing in a Stanley Cup final to the bottom of the league back to the playoffs as quickly as they did, it's right there for the taking. The NHL is more parity than any league out there. And when half the teams make the playoffs every year, to do this as long as they have is less than a 0.001% chance. Something's got to change eventually. And I guess next year, right? There's always next year.
Yeah, bringing in Jake Verdon, this new CCO. I guess he had 12 great years with Minnesota, the Minnesota Timberwolves.
It can't hurt.
No, it can't hurt. You sell some hope, and hopefully, I know Mike said you're probably not going to see any extensive renovations to the Bank Center until
as long as he doesn't bring Kevyn Adams back for 80% of the season, then he's already a winner.
Oh, you don't like Kevyn Adams?
Kevyn Adams gets on during intermission. I get out of my seat and I go to the bar.
Oh, so outside of the
anthem. Great. She's great for the anthem.
Okay,
I don't need her. Yeah, no. I don't need her band there 80% of the games. Like, there's a lot of good local musicians.
Oh, okay.
Oh, it was at least 50% of the games. There's a lot of good local musicians.
Whoever the band was for fan appreciation, they were pretty good.
The last game, yeah. There were a couple times they had some good people in there, and like the one band was playing Rage Against the Machine, and I'm like, yeah, these are the vibes we need. Like, ready to go out there and kill someone next period, not Kevyn Adams singing a country ballad.
But, I'm good on that.
Hey, at least we're what's the new discount they're doing? They're doing a season ticket like special menu next year, so you'll get like half the pizza probably for like 60% of the price, and be like, yeah, here you go.
That's good.
Sweet, thanks.
I will say they did do well with certain food options this year. They improved that, but I mean the fact that they were charging that Dominator burger $39, I'm like, I got it once to say I got it, and I will never get it again.
No, that's how it all is. It's all a gimmick, but here's to hoping we get back. Cheers, boys.
Well, thanks for popping on, Ty. We're gonna continue on here, obviously, without you. Another thing too, Connor, that was talked about extensively, obviously, is the future in net for Buffalo. Both Lindy Ruff and Kevyn Adams expressed that they have a lot of faith in Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, which kind of contradicts kind of what we heard on 32 Thoughts from Elliot Friedman, where he said that he is hearing that there are teams out there that believe that UPL could be available for trade. Obviously, he's not making that up. He's hearing that from other teams. And feeling as Elliot Friedman is essentially our version of Adam Schefter in the NHL. I mean, how do you feel about that when you hear Elliot Friedman say something like that? And again, he's probably hearing it from other teams who have told him that. He's not just making it up. And you hear Kevyn Adams. Well, Lindy was more passionate about his faith in UPL and kind of pointing to the team in front of him, like, you more passionately than me has. And then Kevyn was, again, showed faith in UPL and believes he will have he believed that he will have a bounce back year next year, but he did, not just in reference to UPL, but he said he's going to keep all options open if it makes his team better next year. Where are you at with UPL? We've talked about it quite a bit between other options. You've brought up Jake Allen. Where are you at after hearing what they had to say about UPL and obviously the Elliot Friedman report?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they're listening to other offers. They're obviously going to go up there and say that they have faith in him. They're not going to put all of their cards on the table. But I think anything at this point not named Tage Thompson, Alex Tuck, Rasmus Dahlin, maybe even Peterka is pretty much off the table. Not anything is off the table for this franchise when you're in the midst of a 14-year playoff drought. So, yeah, I mean, he's still relatively young, but coming off a 3.2 and an 8.87, it's not good enough. It's not good enough for any team in the league. I think other teams would potentially be interested. I think there's some similarities between goaltenders and quarterbacks in terms of, like, every team wants one, but it's hard to get one that you can actually trust. There's only 5 to 10 in the league that I think any organization, any fan base would be like, yeah, we absolutely have our guy for the next 5 years. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all if his name was in discussions, and if it was for the right price and the right package, and it gave you something that you didn't already have, or something that you could be confident can help your team moving forward. Let's say that's a top 4 defenseman or a top 6 forward or something, or a veteran goalie to provide some competition. Let's say that's with Levi or somebody else. Like, yeah, like you explore that offer, but you didn't give him the contract that you gave him for no reason at all, just to offload him after a down year, which wasn't completely his fault. Of course, James Reimer played well at the end of the season, but he wasn't really good leading up to that. And we saw obviously Devin Levi early in the season as well. So I think no matter what you do, who's ever in net for you to begin next season, or the combination of the two guys, you need to raise their floor for their level of success moving forward in terms of their ability to perform behind this team. Because so far, at least in the past 3 to 4 years, maybe last season was the best, but UPL kind of covered their flaws defensively with how well he played in the second half of the season. It hasn't been good enough for a long time. And signing Eric Johnson, signing Connor Clifton, trying Henry Jokiharju for as long as they had. It wasn't good enough, and it's not going to be good enough unless they get guys who are proven commodities to come in here and actually change the culture around that defensive system and that defensive room. So, yeah, it's a possibility, but I think they're exploring almost every single avenue, or at least they should.
What do you think the chances are that next season that the goalies in Buffalo, neither of them are UPL or Devin Levi? Do you think they just go and get 2 vet goalies right out of the gate?
I would say slim. I think it's going to be one of those 2 for the majority of the season, combined with a veteran goalie. You've got 2 really good prospects still. I wouldn't necessarily consider UPL a prospect anymore, but he is young enough that he does have some projection built in, and given the timeline for goalies, they develop at a different pace than players do. So him being 25, 26 and still not playing that many games in the NHL, like, he still has a little bit to look forward to in terms of where he's going to be as an NHL goalie. But the combination of both of them, and also you saw what happened with Reimer at the end of the year. I mean, we've mentioned Jake Allen, we've mentioned Thatcher Demko. Those aren't the only 2 names that could possibly be added to this group for next season, whether that's in free agency or a trade. So I think it's definitely going to be one of those 2 combined with a veteran goalie. I think that's the most likely possibility.
Yeah. I guess that I've made it known how I felt about Thatcher Demko, that if he stays healthy, he'd probably be your best option. It's a low risk. I shouldn't keep saying low risk, high reward, because obviously the risk is him getting hurt again. But if the injury stuff wasn't there, yeah, it'd be a low risk, high reward. You're bringing in a goalie that virtually makes the same $250,000 more than your current goalie in UPL, and when he's healthy, he's a Vezina level goaltender. And then Jake Allen has proven throughout his career that he is very serviceable. Is that the right word for him? Would you say serviceable?
Yeah, for sure. He's a quality backup.
Yeah,
and can give you starter quality minutes in a pinch.
Yeah. And in terms of Devin Levi in the press conference, they I think it was Harrington actually who mentioned that you're going to have a guy like Levi who's going to play at least 5 more games here in the playoffs, possibly play into June, chasing a Calder Cup, and how you're feeling. And Kevyn Adams said he thinks he's going to be a fantastic goalie in the NHL, and that's really up to him. It sounds like he's leaving that door open still too for next year. That if Devin Levi wants to compete for a spot on this team next year, they're not going to write it off as, oh, he's going to be in Rochester next year no matter what. They're going to leave that opportunity up to him.
Yeah, I think this playoff is going to be a massive factor in where he is next season. If he performs as well as he has for most of this year, and I think he's got a really good chance to, given the guys that Rochester has gotten back, and Yuri Kulik and Noah Ostlund and Izak Rosian and Tyson Kozak, like that team is going to have an opportunity to make a long run. And if they do, and Levi plays well, that is going to give him the best possible chance to compete for a full-time roster spot next season. So yeah, no, I agree with that in the sense that, yeah, he's done what he's been asked. He's done what he's needed to do so far. But moving forward, as with any goalie, even with me still playing, like I need to prove myself every single time I get out on the ice, no matter who you are at any level. You're only as good as your last game played. And unless you're at this point, Andrei Vasilevsky, Connor Hellebuck, Sergei Bobrovsky, Igor Shesterkin, like no goalie's job in the world is really promised at this point. It's a fickle position, and it's so mentally taxing and physically taxing as well that the next guy could be a month away from getting his shot and going on a run and stealing your position. So it happened with Jordan Binnington 5 years ago. You see it all the time. Aiden Hill. You see all these guys come out of nowhere to win Stanley Cups, win Vezina trophies. So yeah, I mean, it's not the easiest position to figure out, but I do think that compared to the rest of the league, they're still in a relatively good spot as an organization.
Yeah, like another thing too is if Devin Levi is here next year, I mean, that means UPL isn't, right? Like I can't see them going in next season with those 2 goaltenders. Yeah. And realistically, what are those chances? I think that if you're bringing in, if Devin Levi is on this team next year, you absolutely have a veteran ahead of him. I don't think it can be UPL.
No, that combination, especially with another make or break season, probably wouldn't inspire the most confidence unless you get the best version of UPL that we saw last year and also a more developed, better version of Devin Levi. But you're not going to know that you have that until each guy plays 20 plus games in the NHL and gives you over 9.2 and under 2.5. So yeah, that's going to be a hard thing to actually sustain or at least go into the season with. So yeah, I would agree with that.
We have Hunter Rosen asking how we feel about Freddie Anderson as the potential veteran goaltender next year.
He had a great game tonight.
He did. He played fantastic. Actually, quick, did you happen to see at all? I know, sometimes we look at Twitter while we're live. Did you see what Anthony Stolarz did to Greek?
I did see that, yeah.
He literally beat the shit out of him, and Greek got the penalty.
Yeah, I would pull that up if you can, because
it's fantastic.
In terms of
not to change the subject, people were watching.
In terms of a goalie video, that's one of the best. That's one of the best goalie player net front interactions that I've ever seen.
Yeah, Pete Blackburn. I'll just keep talking.
He fought for his crease. He did what he needed to do to get a guy. I mean, I've never been that aggressive, but sometimes a guy's annoying enough where you need to do what you can to get him out of the way, or at least scare him from coming back. and Stolarz, he really went over the top with this one. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Freddie Anderson, I think it's probably a higher level of goalie than a guy like Jake Allen in terms of like starting potential. He's another veteran guy. He's played his fair share of minutes as an NHL starter with a variety of different teams now. And yeah, I don't think that's a bad option by any stretch. Any guy like that, like proven commodities. We talk about a proven commodity as a top 4 right-handed defenseman partner for Owen Power. You want a veteran guy that's proven himself in the league. You want those guys in your top 6 and your middle 6, like Jason Zucker. And you want that from a goaltending perspective as well. I don't think teams are scared away by guys in their 30s anymore. I think 30 is typically an age that athletes begin to decline. But from a goalie's perspective, it's the synergy between your mental and your physical game. Your physical aspects might not be what they used to, but in terms of reading the play and being a more cerebral goaltender, I think that's the sweet spot for a lot of goalies in this league. So yeah, an older guy like Freddie Anderson, I really do think could be a good option.
All right, I'm gonna bring it up right now. Just give me a second here. For some reason, I was never prompted or never forced to update from Twitter to X on my MacBook, so it's actually still Twitter on here, but I think they finally just stopped giving me the ability to pull up tweets from the old Twitter, so I think I finally have to update it. But I'll bring it up right here. Share screen. This is fantastic for anyone watching. Let's see here. Pull it up. Head of stage. Can you see it?
Yeah, you just gotta play it.
All right. Let me see. Let me bring it up now. All right. We play it. This is fantastic.
That one strong, but nicely defended net front. And there's one, there's two, and they're about 3 or 4. There's, I mean, that's 3 penalties easily. You didn't call any of them. That's another trip. That's a Billy.
He beats the shit out of him.
Okay. Did you see a roughing on 71? That one strong, but
Yeah,
And Green gets the penalty.
Yeah, and Green and got the penalty for getting his ass kicked.
They're about. There's
Really
I gotta watch it again. I'm sorry. This is so good.
Any of them. That's another trip. That's a Billy.
The check at the end.
Oh my god.
Did you see it?
Yeah, I don't know.
That was amazing.
I'm usually on
that
the
was
side of the
amazing.
goalie here. I don't know how he got away with that, but good for him. You got to fight for your crease.
Oh yeah, I love it. As a goalie, me too. We love it. Getting away from obviously the goalie talk here. Again, I like Freddie Anderson. You know, he's always been a consistent goaltender. You know, he's dealt with injury issues too in the past. If you were to tell me any of those 3 are in Buffalo, Thatcher Demko, Jake Allen, or Freddie Anderson, I'd be fine with Devin Levi being the other guy, as long as one of those 3 guys are the other guy. In my just my opinion. Moving on. There was one other thing. I'm just trying to remember what it was that I did want to talk about in terms of the team and that press conference. There was one other point that was made. I can't remember now. Oh, whatever. Your thoughts on the playoffs so far?
Haven't watched too much in terms of like game by game. I watched a little bit of the end of last night's games. It seems pretty competitive. Last night specifically was a really good night of hockey overall. The end of that Kings-Oilers game was absolutely insane. I know it's a little bit tough for people on the East Coast, but 5-3, they tied at 5. Classic Connor McDavid goes through the entire team, and then Philip Deneau somehow gets a knuckle puck from the slot to go over Stuart Skinner and into the net for the win. There's some pretty good games tonight. I don't think it's surprising at all that the Hurricanes are up 2-0 on the Devils, given their injuries. Would love to see some more 1-1s after these second games. I think that we've got some pretty good first round matchups. And I think a lot of people have been talking about whether or not back to the goalies, that Connor Hellebuck can show that he can face the bright lights of the playoffs and continue what he's proven in the regular season for so long. And he had a little bit of a rough first game, but I think last night he proved that he is the best goalie in the league and he is going to win the Vezina. And he's the guy that potentially could get it done for Winnipeg. So I would
might win the MVP.
Yeah, I think
he might win MVP this year.
Probably won't. It usually doesn't happen, but I think him getting votes would say itself how good of a season he had. So
are those awards already voted on?
I think they are. I mean, they're regular season awards, so
yeah,
it would be smart if they were, because you don't want.
Yeah, you can't take playoffs into consideration. I mean,
yeah,
obviously that didn't happen back in the day when Hasek was winning them and nominated for him. It was based off his season play, which was incredible.
Yeah, I would say the Jets are still the favorite. Capitals are off to a great start. Obviously, Ovechkin continuing his run here, getting his first ever playoff overtime goal. It's pretty insane. But yeah, I mean,
career,
yeah, I think it's relatively wide open, and there's a lot of teams that could do it. And you see every year a team get hot or a goalie get hot, and they go on a run, and someone wins that you didn't necessarily expect. But as good as the Jets and the Capitals were, and how they separated themselves in the regular season, I would still consider both of them to be the favorite. But betting wise, I think it's the Avalanche still, which is not necessarily super surprising given their level of stardom and skill. But a guy like Mackenzie Blackwood hasn't necessarily proven himself in the playoffs thus far. So yeah, we'll see. But it's been pretty entertaining.
That was a thought I wanted to bring up. Obviously, you guys brought up Lou Lamoriello was let go from the Islanders. A guy who has a very long history in the league at general manager, assistant general manager. He made some pretty good moves when he was with Toronto. I mean, I saw it in here. It reminded me of the deal they made with where was it? Dion Phaneuf. Were they able to get rid of him just via a cap dump, which I can't remember the details of that deal, but I remember it was some pretty genius moves by Lou Lamoriello, and then obviously his history with the Devils and now the Islanders. You saw Jason Botterill get promoted to GM today. Was that today or was it yesterday?
Yeah, this week.
It was this week. Okay. Jason Botterill, and then, friend of the program. Greg is going to be coming on with us right before the start of the second round. I was chatting with him today, and so I'm going to make him answer for that tweet, when he does come on with us. But he, was, kind of giving Jason Botterill his flowers and stating, Buffalo is going to Buffalo, and essentially that wasn't Jason Botterill's fault, which is a load of bullshit. I will say on the Skinner contract that Jason was a no-win situation there. I know Pegula wanted to resign him, and damned if you do, damned if you don't. How do you let a 40-goal scorer walk? And then how do you pay Jeff Skinner, $9 million a year? Listen, super happy for Jason Botterill getting a second chance. Good for him. But to insinuate that Jason Botterill was scapegoated in Buffalo at the GM is absolute nonsense when you look at his work as a whole. Yeah, we can sit here and say Terry Pegula was at fault for a lot for not letting him spend, but Terry Pegula didn't tell Jason Botterill not to sign Hagel to a contract, did he? I imagine not. Terry Pegula wasn't the one that told Jason Botterill to only bridge Sam Reinhart. That's a Jason Botterill decision. So between that and obviously other obvious decisions, picking Davidson over who was it? Jason Robertson, for instance. Davidson, a guy who, and again, you could say that about every round of every draft too. A guy that you should have picked who ended up blossoming compared to who you picked. You can say about every single Sabre draft, but I hate hearing stuff like that Jason Botterill was somehow some type of scapegoat. But with Lou Lamoriello being let go, you see them promoting from within in Buffalo. Do you see it? We've talked about president of hockey operations quite a bit on the show, and Mike Carrington doesn't see there as there being any way that Buffalo hires somebody for that position. But do you think there is a chance that given what Elliot Friedman reported, that there could be some movement around Kevyn Adams, and he did bring up a possible change in title in Kevyn, but didn't say it. He said it. He didn't say it could happen, but he said he didn't rule it out. Could you see a situation where Kevyn is the guy put in that role, president of hockey ops, and maybe they do bring in a Lou Lamoriello to be GM? Because Mike was very no more first-time GMs.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what Kevyn Adams has done to deserve that role. I don't know. I don't know how that could necessarily be a good idea. Like, you would potentially create a situation where the GM feels like he doesn't have full control. I think that's kind of what's happening in Seattle. They released a statement today that Ron Francis is going to be the president of hockey operations, and Jason Botterill will be working hand in hand with Francis to execute his vision for the team. That doesn't seem like a situation, or at least if I was Jason Botterill, where I felt like I had full control over the team and over the roster and the scouting department and everything else that you want to do as a GM to make your organization better. So if I were Lou Lamoriello and Kevyn Adams failed as GM and was just shoved off to the hockey operations department, I wouldn't love that. I don't think a lot of former NHL GMs would be comfortable with that situation. So no, I don't necessarily. I don't think that would happen personally. But I don't know. We'll see. Stranger things have happened, and if that's what it requires, and someone agrees to that, to bring in a guy with experience who's done this before, who can revamp the scouting department, who can bring in some of his guys to take a fresh look at this roster, then yeah, I'd be on board with it, as long as Kevyn Adams wasn't making hockey decisions anymore.
Yeah, like president of hockey ops, obviously you don't have direct. Sure you have an input, but like in terms of, roster decisions, trades, signings, drafting, those responsibilities fall at the feet of your GM. If you're going to tell me that you're going to promote Kevyn Adams to that position in the organization, but you're bringing in a seasoned veteran, a guy with so much experience like a Lou Lamoriello. It doesn't have to be Lou, but like Lou Lamoriello, who just happens to be available. I'd be all for it. Because how is Kevyn Adams going to tell Lou Lamoriello, I think you should do this? Even I know you want to do this, but I think you should. You just don't. It's Lou. And I'd be all for that. I would absolutely be all for that.
Yeah. Someone like him, whether it's Lou or Yarmo, I don't know how to pronounce his last name.
He does. Apparently, somebody reached out to me like a week ago or so. Apparently, at one point, he was following me on Twitter. I had no clue. And then he unfollowed me. And apparently, that's happened with a bunch of Sabres content creators. It might have even happened with you. I know it happened with Joe Marino. Like, he just randomly started following Sabres podcasts and shows and whatnot. And then he unfollowed them all. But if you go under his follows on Twitter, he does, for the most part, out of the accounts he does follow, it's like Columbus and it's the Sabres.
Well, yeah. I think his tenure in Columbus, obviously they didn't have the most amount of success, but he did make some good moves. And then there's a guy like Ken Holland as well, who,
yep.
Obviously success is relative in the league, but he does have experience. So any of those guys I'd be on board with, as long as it was someone with experience that could take a fresh look at this and give it a real shot, rather than a guy who was coaching hockey school and in the business office before being promoted to general manager. So
I know Carmonos is really respected, but again, I just don't want another first-time GM.
Yeah. We've tried that too many times. So something different.
Any final thoughts?
Here we are again, but again, I'm at least cautiously optimistic for something different this offseason, for something similar to what worked last year, a la the Savoy from McLeod trade, or potentially maybe even an offer sheet. I think that if this is Kevyn Adams' job still, that he's going to have to get a little bit crazy and he's going to have to try something new, or at least do more of what he's had success with. And I do think that is less of the status quo and taking some more chances and bringing guys in, whether they want to be here or not, if that comes to a trade. So I think that at least gives us the chance for a little bit of variance and a little bit of excitement from a fan perspective. And I think the team would benefit from that as well. We all know that there are dead periods in the NHL when it comes to trades and also with any type of activity whatsoever. So it might need to happen before the draft, right around free agency, because that period from mid-July to mid-September, basically nothing happens in the league. And it has happened in the league for a really long time. So there's a sweet spot, and they need to establish pretty quickly what this front office is going to look like and who's going to be there and what the coaching staff is going to be, so that everybody's on the same page to make an actual real change to get this team in a better position come early October. But I, for one, I am, like everyone else, a little bit demoralized, a little bit numb to it all. A lot of words are going one ear and out the other. But as a fan, and we're allowed to have hope still, and we're allowed to hope for something a little bit better this offseason. And we'll see what happens.
For my final thought, I'm going to bring it up here too. A really good friend of mine, growing up, we've kind of grown apart over the years, like kind of happens after high school. But he's a huge Sabres fan. He's been in a couple bands, brilliant guitarist. Friend of mine, Will Leach. Fortunately, was diagnosed recently with brain cancer. Just had to have emergency surgery to have, I'm not sure if it was like a tumor or a lesion removed from his brain. And I just want to reach out to Will and all those he cares about, and wish him, a recovery. I don't know how to say, for lack of better way of saying it. Obviously, it's a scary thing, but he's a good friend and a huge Sabres fan. I just want to share a few things in regards to that. If you are in favor of fuck cancer and helping him on his journey to paying a lot of medical bills, and I know how well the city of Buffalo, comes together in situations like this. I'm going to pull up the QR code right here. A good friend of mine, again, Will Leach, collapsed a couple weeks ago in his kitchen, and was recently, brought back home, and he's just now kind of gotten back on his feet and kind of going back out, and he's obviously out of work right now. So anything anybody can do, we want to do would help. You just scan the QR code, which is right there, and that takes you directly to his GoFundMe account. Anything helps. Really good guy. Had a lot of good times with him, especially after high school. Me, him, Wade Mezhowitz, my boys, Dave Benson and Billy George. We were the crew for a few years there, going to places like the pub and having a great time. And again, anything you can do to help would be greatly appreciated. Just scan the QR code there, and I'll post the link as well. But I know, again, Buffalo always comes together in times like this. It's one of the things we're definitely well known for. So again, anything you can do to help. But those are my final thoughts. And as always, we'll be here again every Tuesday, and maybe for a few I'll hang up and listen here and there in between, depending on the situation. Maybe if there's another first round exit for the Leafs, I'll definitely go live after that. But we'll probably see you again on Tuesday, unless we land an interview in between. But as always, guys, go Sabres. We'll talk to you next time.